I just had the best thought. Do you know why this is all better than a soap opera? Because a soap opera airs just once a day. But this mess, we get it throughout the day and at night, keeping me real busy. Hello, my fam. It is Perez, the queen of all media, the original influencer, journalist, podcaster, and your number one source for everything It Ends With Us saga. I love that she's got this flyaway here right in front of her nose, her new nose. I just noticed that, and it brings me joy. However, unlike a telenovela you don't need to watch throughout the day, I am here to make sure you understand where we are and what has just happened. In the video that I shared just before this one, the Wayfarer defendants were fighting with Team Pinocchio, arguing to the judge, her bestie, that they should not be forced to hand over all the requests for production that she's demanding through the present. That's a lot. They explained why, and now, very quickly, the cockalicious crew is firing back. Literally minutes ago, ethically challenged Ezra, who is one of the lead attorneys for Butthole Blake, filed a letter with the judge. And I have a huge note, which I'm not going to share with you right away, but I think you might be able to pick up on it pretty quickly. I'll let you know before the letter is over, because I want you to see if you can use your powers of deduction like I did. This was glaring. Blake, ruin your livelihood's very expensive and very mediocre lawyer writes to her bestie, Judge Lyman, quote, "Dear Judge Lyman, in light of the court's invitation for the Wayfarer defendants to address the extent to which discovery through the present is or is not appropriate by today's date, Plaintiff Blake Lively respectfully submits this supplemental letter to highlight the relevance of Exhibit A that was attached to the just filed declaration of non-party James Vitushka." That was the first video that I posted today. Many videos back. I've had a very busy day. Watch that one to be fully caught up. But the summary is that Daily Mail reporter was fired by the Daily Mail and submitted a new declaration, which really didn't change much of what he previously said, but laid the groundwork for a possible lawsuit against Baldoni and the Wayfarer parties, in addition to the one I'm sure he's planning against the Daily Mail, who fired him. And perhaps also laying the groundwork for an appeal by fake Snively should she, for some reason, lose. For some reason meaning, the jury didn't believe her. I have no idea how they're going to vote. 50-50. It could go either way. So how exactly is this revelation from James Vitushka of text messages from December of 2024 relevant to their request to hand over production through the present? Let's see Ezra try and explain. She tells Lying Lyman, quote, "Exhibit A is a text communication dated December 25th, 2024 that shows one of the central claims asserted by the Wayfarer defendants in this case, that Leslie Sloan told, her case no longer includes Leslie Sloan. Once again, misrepresenting, lying. Exhibit A is a text communication dated December 25th, 2024 that shows one of the central claims asserted by the Wayfarer defendants in this case, that Leslie Sloan told Mr. Vitushka that Miss Lively was sexually assaulted by Justin Baldoni, had no reasonable basis in fact. This false allegation was the pretense upon which the Wayfarer defendants sued Miss Sloan, her company, and Miss Lively via an agency theory for defamation. Once again, false. As I mentioned in the video where I recapped the James reversal from earlier today, the foundation of the Wayfarer party's defamation claim, which has been tossed in the garbage along all their other claims because their lawsuit was dismissed by the judge, they specifically cited the New York Times, and only the New York Times. But let's let Ezra get on with it. She continues, Exhibit A presents clear evidence that Brian Friedman and Melissa Nathan understood no later than December 25th, 2024, that their core factual allegation regarding this defamation claim was baseless. Furthermore, neither Miss Nathan nor any of the Wayfarer defendants or their counsel have produced the December 25th text chain, raising the question whether their insistence on maintaining a December 20th cutoff date is motivated by their possession of this and or similar documents. Accordingly, Exhibit A supports Miss Lively's request for discovery from the Wayfarer defendants through the present because it demonstrates precisely the kind of evidence that the Wayfarer defendants and their counsel possesses, yet have concealed, post-dating their proposed discovery cutoff date of December 20th, 2024. What? Once again, Ezra, the queen of misrepresentation. Or maybe I'm misremembering this, but I think I remember reading this. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've had a stressful week. I've had a freaking stressful month. Jesus. But I remember reading that the Wayfarer parties were willing and offered to extend to the accused racist to produce discovery up until the middle of February, when Blunderbuss Lively filed her first amended complaint. Right? Didn't they offer that? I'm pretty sure they offered that. And Ezra has more to say, but what are your thoughts thus far? I have two glaring thoughts. My first one was major red flags, obvious sirens, and the second one was almost just as loud. It seems to me that the fired Daily Mail reporter, James, quite possibly might be in cahoots with Team Snake Lively. I don't have any information that backs up that opinion, but it seems like it could be highly likely. And the loudest ringing noise in my head, do you know what one of the most recurring themes that the expert extortionist legal team keeps yapping to Judge Lyman about? Brian Friedman and the Wayfarer defendants are using this court's docket as PR. They're filing things for press. Boo. That's you, too. That's exactly what this is. Mid Ezra is attempting to get headlines for her client, amplifying James's filing from this morning. Because so far, that James filing has gotten very little mainstream media pickup. You spin me round, round like a record spin. Spin, sugar. Ezra was not done. She continued, yapping, quote, as brief background, in 3 separate complaints, the Wayfarer defendants relied upon supposed statements from Miss Sloan suggesting that Miss Lively was sexually assaulted by Mr. Baldoni. Their initial complaint against the New York Times, filed on December 31st, 2024, in California State Court, the New York Times complaint. Their original complaint against Miss Lively, filed on January 16th, 2025, the Wayfarer complaint, and their first amended complaint, filed on January 31st, 2025, the Wayfarer FAC. In their New York Times complaint, the Wayfarer defendants included undated excerpts of the text messages identified in Exhibit A, which left open for interpretation the timing and sequencing of events. 2 days later, however, the Wayfarer defendants filed an errata to the New York Times complaint, removing the very text messages in Exhibit A based on a reporter's privilege. Reporter's privilege is exactly why the judge in Las Vegas next week is going to deny ball-busting Blake's motion to compel me and grant my motion to quash. For sure. I am confident in that. Well, not really. I'd say it's 50-50 also. But it shouldn't be. I'm 90% confident. That's very confident. In addition, our girl Ezra continues, they omitted these same text messages in the 2 complaints filed before this court and instead included only the text message between Mr. Vitushka and defendant Nathan, in which Mr. Vitushka allegedly suggested that Leslie Sloan is saying that Miss Lively was sexually assaulted. The Wayfarer defendants relied on this specific text message between Mr. Vitushka and Miss Nathan in their SDNY complaints, which also has not been produced by Miss Nathan or any Wayfarer defendant in discovery, even though it is cited in the SDNY complaints. As support for their allegation that Miss Lively's publicist Leslie Sloan lied to portray Baldoni as the foe and escalated the false narrative by telling the reporter that Miss Lively was sexually assaulted, an unsubstantiated accusation designed to destroy Baldoni and his reputation. The Wayfarer defendants relied upon this sexual assault allegation. They did not rely upon it. It was a piece of a much larger puzzle. The Wayfarer defendants relied upon this sexual assault allegation to advance their defamation suits against Leslie Sloan and Vision PR and Miss Lively, and to support their oppositions to the Sloan parties and Miss Lively's motions to dismiss, filed on March 6, 2025 and April 3rd, 2025, respectively. However, according to Exhibit A, before any of these complaints were even filed, the Wayfarer defendants and Mr. Friedman apparently knew that this sexual assault allegation was patently baseless. They knew so at the time they filed an errata that obscured this revelation from their New York Times complaint. They knew so when they made their allegations in this action, notwithstanding knowledge of the same, and they have not produced the entire text chain that would clarify the sequencing and timing in the way Exhibit A now has. Oh my God, Insufferable Blake's lawyer is as insufferable as her. Ezra keeps repeating herself. She says, to summarize, what you've already said more than once. Exhibit A confirms that the Wayfarer defendants and Mr. Friedman knew on December 25th, 2024, or 3 weeks before they filed the original complaint in this action, alleging defamation. No, that action was dismissed. The Wayfarer defendants and Mr. Friedman knew on December 25th, 2024, or 3 weeks before they filed the original complaint in this action, alleging defamation against the Sloan parties and Miss Lively, that Miss Sloan did not tell Mr. Vetushka that Miss Lively was sexually assaulted by Mr. Baldoni. Putting aside the many issues that this revelation presents, there's a footnote. It says, on its face, Exhibit A raises a host of concerning issues that likely will impact Miss Lively's pending Rule 11 and Rule 3.6 motions, as well as her forthcoming motion for attorney's fees, treble damages, and punitive damages pursuant to California Civil Code Section 47.1. You remember 3.6? We talked about this recently, where the Penguin experts team was hoping to get sanctions against Brian Friedman, Baldoni's lead attorney, and maybe even have him removed from being able to represent the Wayfarer defendants in New York. And similarly, Rule 11 was another request for sanctions, accusing Friedman and the lawyers for the Wayfarer parties of abusing the court and filing unnecessary papers and motions. And Rule 11 is essentially a mechanism to deter the filing of frivolous or improper legal documents. Lawyers lawyering on both sides. So, back to Ezra. She said, putting aside the many issues that this revelation presents, Mr. Vetushka's text messages with defendant Nathan and Mr. Friedman are exactly the types of communications that Miss Lively sought when she propounded discovery demands not only upon the Wayfarer defendants, but also Liner, Friedman, Titleman, Cooley, LLP, the law firm that Brian Friedman works at. To be sure, these communications were not just related to the Wayfarer defendants' now dismissed claims. They are also responsive to any number of requests propounded by Miss Lively, including request numbers 5, 8, 9, 22 to 25, 32, 38, and 40, and plainly rebut the I love that word, rebut. I am so tired, but I'm giving it to you, trying to make this as fun as possible. All these requests plainly rebut the Wayfarer defendants' disingenuous notion that negative narratives against Miss Lively and the Sloan parties were organic. They were. This specific narrative about sexual assault was plainly created by the Wayfarer defendants and their counsel. In fact, these communications remove any doubt as to Mr. Friedman's direct involvement and interaction with media outlets regarding Miss Lively and her complaints. These communications with the Daily Mail reporter, formerly employed there, also confirm that the Wayfarer defendants and Mr. Friedman appear to have knowingly made allegations on the basis of sexual assault statements that they had no reasonable basis to believe were made. Repeating herself again. When they filed each of their SDNY complaints and opposed the Sloan parties and Miss Lively's motions to dismiss. Queen of repetition. Further, it is clear that the Wayfarer defendants have intentionally intentionally withheld these plainly relevant and responsive communications based on their arbitrary December 20th, 2024 cutoff date. For these additional reasons, it is respectfully submitted that Ms. Lively's motion to compel be granted in its entirety, and the Wayfarer defendants be compelled to produce responsive discovery through the present. Babe, you didn't need to jump through all those hoops. Her bestie was most likely going to give you all of this anyways, 'cause he's biased. In my opinion. What do I want? Nothing. I just want sleep. I was going to say, I want a snack. Like, I want a treat. I want a massage. Oh my God, I would love a massage. Wow, I could use a massage. Or even just like a scalp massage or like a foot massage or a BJ. I haven't had one of those in too many years. Anybody want to give me a mercy blow? Oh my God, I'm delirious. All right, my friend. This is the stuff you get for watching till the very end. You are so appreciated. I mean that with every fiber of my being. Celine Dion, chest thump and all. Far, wherever you are, I believe I will see you in the comments. So let's get to chatting. Thoughts on anything and everything? Let's share them with each other. Mwah!